Did you dress her up like this?
No!
Yes, a bit. She has got a wart.
What makes you think she is a witch?
Well, she turned me into a newt.
A newt?
I got better.
Burn her anyway!
Well, this is probably going to be a running theme, making video responses to J. Dyer correcting his nonsense. He never cites any of his sources or gives links, page numbers, or anything. One of the reasons I like to tackle these conspiracy nuts is because of the potential for their lies, half-truths, and baseless claims to have real-world consequences, such as the man who entered Comet Pizza with an automatic rifle demanding to see the basement. A frightened clerk explained that there was no basement. Luckily, no one died. People hear these accusations and take them at face value. The more a person is likable and charismatic, the more influential and far-reaching this type of dangerous nonsense can be. From vaccine deniers all the way up to allegations of satanic cults. We should all keep a skeptical viewpoint and challenge claims when they seem outrageous or unusual. You might just save a life. J. Dyer likes to pepper his crazy conspiracies with the word occult, when there is no connection whatsoever. He never defines the term. He never cites a legitimate source connecting these things, and he never expounds on these claims. He assumes the word itself will shock people and make them run to their King James version of the Bible faster than they can do a quick Google search. In this video that aired back in November of 2016, J. Dyer spreads several misconceptions about Marina Abramovich and Hollywood movies, again making the elusive claim of occult symbolism. I chose this particular video to start with as his later videos build upon the foundation of these lies. Marina Abramovich and many others in Hollywood are not witches, despite how you try and dress them as such. I am here to remove the guise you have placed upon them. I hope you enjoyed the video, and please stay skeptical, stay informed, and don't listen to charlatans trying to trick you into fearing the unknown. As always, links are provided below as well as the original video I am responding to.
But to begin with, we're going to talk about what's going on with the WikiLeaks situation and the Clinton Foundation and all that, why this matters and why it's such a big deal, because this is a big mover and shaker in Washington, D.C., and we're going to see later that there's a direct connection, it appears, to occultic elements.
Let me save you the trouble. There is no connection.
And the, I guess you could say, witchcraft, more or less, that Marina Abramovich is involved in.
Marina Abramovich has nothing to do with occultism, and she does not identify as a witch or an occultist. Nothing she does has anything to do with the occult or witchcraft. You are so ignorant and need to perpetuate a particular narrative to sell your badly researched crappy books. Assuming that what Marina does is related to the occult, it would be akin to seeing a play where a crucifix appears and assuming that it must be Christianity. Drawing a pentagram does not make an occult ritual, nor do triangles or the number 666.
Not clear exactly what tradition it might be, but it's kind of probably an amalgam of all those with the elements of folk religion or animism or voodoo or something like that. But we're going to look at some of that.
The reason you don't know what she practices is because she doesn't practice any form of witchcraft. How can I get this through your thick skull? Are you so blinded by the hope of selling more books that you completely deny reality? Absolutely nothing she does has any basis in any actual occult or witchcraft practice, and she does not identify as such. If she was an occultist or a witch, she would say so. There are many famous people who are, and they admit it without hesitation. Of course, you would deny this because if you admit you are wrong, you would not be able to sell your books to the gullible. You're simply denying reality, making up lies to sell more books and get more money. You care more about the almighty dollar than the truth and the lives you are disparaging. You are scum. Absolute scum.
Jamie, what do you think about all this?
Well, it's really interesting because we've been talking about this stuff for a long time, this satanic ritual abuse and the cult and the elite practices.
Satanic ritual abuse was a misleading term coined during the satanic panic of the late 80s to the early 90s. There has never been any evidence found of a satanic cult where anyone was molested or ritually sacrificed. This was fear-mongering brought about by bored housewives who believed in the nonsense you are still spreading. This bullshit started with Mike Warnke, Lauren Stratford, and John Todd, all of which were exposed as frauds and charlatans. Sadly, ignorant, superstitious, bigoted idiots such as two of you still cling to it. If you had any proof of a satanic cult, then you would be citing an actual proven court case where there was a conviction. I highly suggest reading Kenneth Lanning's 1992 FBI report on ritualistic abuse and multidimensional sex rings.
And now we kind of have some proof and a lot of concrete links that link one thing to another. And so do you want to talk about the spirit cooking?
You have proof for satanic cults performing ritual abuse in concrete links that link one thing to another? Translation, you have absolutely no proof, and all you actually have are half-assed forced associations. Spirit cooking was an art installation of Marina Abramovich.
Yeah, we're going to look at that first. This is this idea of kind of a cross between performance art and magic that this woman that I've talked about many times. In fact, I think on Hoaxbusters, the afternoon commute discussions that we've had, I brought up Marina Abramovich because there was a sort of a, I don't know how to describe it. I'll see if I can find this article here, but Lady Gaga was interested in setting up a kind of performance art / mind control facility that was inspired by the work of Marina Abramovich.
Lady Gaga was interested in setting up performance art / mind control with Marina Abramovich? Do you listen to yourself? The CIA spent millions of dollars and nearly 20 years of resources in a futile effort to develop some weaponized mind control using drugs and electroshock. It didn't work then, and it doesn't work now. Enter Lady Gaga and Marina Abramovich, and suddenly they figured it out, using hidden occult symbolism in art and music and poems about breast milk and earthquake nights? You have got to be kidding me. You cannot possibly be this gullible and this stupid. But you said you have proof and concrete links. So where is it? Where's the proof? Where are the links?
I do, and then when we talk a little bit about aristocracy, this reminded me of a satanic ritual chamber in the basement of these people that we're going to talk about in a second, and how they worship themselves in a mirror.
I edited this video down to save time, and I didn't cut out any part where they claimed proof or any concrete links. Instead, they showed a clip of an art installation that shows brainwave activity, claiming it was mind control. I've never come across a ritual that involves worshiping oneself in the mirror. I've heard of a ritual chamber, and if someone worships themselves in front of a mirror, that sounds more like some form of personal narcissism than any actual occult ritual.
The email that shows the spirit cooking so that we know what we're talking about here. to WikiLeaks and we find the actual email, and this is, well, it doesn't list the number, but you can find it if you Google it. But it says, I'm looking forward to the spirit cooking dinner at my place. Do you think you'll be able to let me know if your brother's joining? All my love, Marina. And so we're going to have to look and see at this invitation what it involves, and I think we'll get a better picture of why we're saying all this. And the mainstream media is, of course, trying to do damage control and say that none of this is esoteric, none of it's occultic, none of it, there's no such thing as witchcraft and Satanism, ha ha ha, even though there's thousands of satanic and witchcraft type groups out there. It doesn't exist, but that's what they do. They constantly contradict and lie about this stuff. But
what the f***? The mainstream media wasn't trying to cover up anything, and they were certainly not trying to say that Satanists and modern-day witches do not exist. Tony Podesta, who is the brother of John Podesta, is a financial supporter of Marina. Marina has fundraising events called spirit cooking dinners that celebrities and financial supporters attend. That is why at the bottom of the email she lists her upcoming events and exhibitions. Nice failed straw man. Come on, man. I thought you were better than this.
Whenever you have this kind of dark stuff, you also have all the other things that go along with it, like Crowleyanism, right? And the possibility of the child trafficking networks and so forth that is also out there now on Reddit, 4chan, and hitting the alternative media sphere, which of course the mainstream media is never going to touch.
Child abuse and molestation happens. No one denies that. However, it has nothing to do with Crowleyanism, and I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do you mean members of the OTO or AA, or just people who read Crowley? Every single occult order, including the OTO and AA, restrict members to only those candidates who are over the age of 18. Anyone who is found guilty of performing such a horrific illegal activity are reported to the proper authorities immediately. If there were any cases, you would cite them. Stop trying to disparage occultists by exploiting your audience's ignorance and playing off their fears and their protective maternal instincts, as no one wants children to endure such horrors. So if you do have any such evidence of child abuse, report it immediately to the proper authorities. The simple fact that you are not citing any actual criminal cases speaks volumes to your baseless accusations. You are a deceitful, lying, money-grubbing shill.
But that's what you always tend to see in these kind of dark occultic things, right? We think of Franklin cover-up, Sandusky, Savile.
You keep citing the attempted blackmail of Lawrence King and the Franklin Credit Union, which was proven to be false. The two people accusing him were proven in a court of law to be involved in a carefully crafted hoax, and were found guilty of blackmail and perjury. In 1988, authorities looked into allegations that prominent citizens of Nebraska, as well as high-level U.S. politicians, were involved in a child prostitution ring. Alleged abuse victims were interviewed, who claimed that children in foster care were flown to the East Coast of the United States to be sexually abused at bad parties. The claims primarily centered on Lawrence E. King Jr., who ran the now defunct Franklin Community Federal Credit Union in Omaha, Nebraska, and alleged that the ring was a cult of devil worshippers involved in the mutilation, sacrifice, and cannibalism of numerous children. Numerous conspiracy theories evolved, claiming that the alleged abuse was part of a widespread series of crimes, including devil worship, cannibalism, drug trafficking, and CIA arms dealing. The Nebraska State Foster Care Review Board submitted the results of a 2-year investigation into the alleged physical and sexual abuse of foster children to the executive board of the Nebraska legislature, who were investigating reports of child sexual abuse linked to the credit union. After investigation, a grand jury in Douglas County, where Omaha, Nebraska is situated, determined the abuse allegations were baseless, describing them as a carefully crafted hoax, and indicting 2 of the original accusers on perjury charges. The grand jury suspected that the false stories originated from a fired employee of Boys Town, who might have fueled the fire of rumor and innuendo because of personal grudges. A federal grand jury also concluded that the abuse allegations were unfounded and indicted a 21-year-old Alicia Owen, an alleged victim, on 8 counts of perjury. Owen served 4.5 years in prison. Separately, the federal grand jury indicted multiple officers of the credit union for embezzlement of funds, including King.
All these different scandals, Dutroux affair in Belgium, all these different scandals that have involved the very things that we're that are hinted at, or at least the code speak of these Podesta emails.
There is no code speak. That is nonsense first generated by some random troll on 4chan, and gullible idiots such as yourself took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. You should be embarrassed and ashamed for believing such nonsense. Instead, you spread the nonsense as true and accurate with no other piece of corroborative evidence. What did you go to school for? What was your degree again? Was it underwater basket weaving?
And we're going to see that it's not accidental. There's a clear recipe, quote unquote, or spell that involves these various rituals that are sometimes under the guise of performance art. But if you find Marina's AMA, Ask Me Anything on Reddit, she says that the performance art is one lesser kind of form of the magic ritual, but that the real ritual is when you do it in private. So she's talking about a private dinner here with Podesta.
Holy hell. You can't even get the unfounded claim right. This inference was based on one answered question on Reddit, where Marina Abramovich was asked, Marina, what place do you see the occult having within contemporary art? Can magic be made, not simply appropriated, performed? Thanks. K. Marina responded, everything depends on which context you are doing what you are doing. If you are doing the occult, magic, in the context of art or in a gallery, then it is the art. If you are doing it in a different context, in spiritual circles or private house or on TV shows, it is not art. The intention, the context for what is made and where it is made defines what art is or not. She is obviously speaking as an artist. She is correct. Context is very important. Not everything is an occult ritual. Sometimes it's just art. She mentions nothing about her own artwork, nor does she mention anything about dinners or cooking. Is this an example of your well-educated and well-read research as proof and concrete links? What is she supposed to be guilty of again? Performance art? Or guilty of including occult imagery? I'm not sure what she is guilty of.
And presumably it's going to involve the very recipes that she describes.
Yeah, and so this spirit cooking dinner recipe involves various bodily fluids, blood and semen and breast milk and urine or whatever. And these you can find straight out of the OTO rituals and their Eucharist called Cakes of Light.
The Gnostic Catholic Church, right?
Right, and also in their ritual called the Mass of the Phoenix. So
Marina's writings listing breast milk, sperm milk taken on earthquake nights, and all the other imagery she uses has nothing to do with the Cakes of Light used in the Mass of the Phoenix. The Cakes of Light recipe is described in Aleister Crowley's book Magick in Theory and Practice, chapter 19, page 160, in the footnote where it reads, the Cakes of Light are universally applicable. They contain meal, honey, and oil, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, the three necessaries of human nutrition. Also, the perfume of the three essential types of magical and curative virtue. The subtle principle of animal life itself is fixed in them by the introduction of fresh living blood. Furthermore, when Crowley writes on the perfumes of the three essential types, he is speaking of dragon's blood, as expanded upon in the editor's footnote 238, page 267, Liber Legis III, 23 through 25, where he, the editor, writes in connection with the blood, he, Crowley, continues. A. Menstrual blood. B. Possibly dragon's blood. These two kinds of blood are not to be confused, which is typical of Crowley's rather tongue-in-cheek way of writing. To understand Crowley's rather twisted sense of humor, you really have to read his writings with a sense of humor.
there you have it.
All right, well, let's look at where she says this. Stream, of course, is saying that this is not anything esoteric or satanic or cultic. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's just performance art. But if you go to editionjs.com, where this is all listed, these are her recipes, and they're basically spells.
Her written works are spells? Okay, you have something to prove this correct, or is this another one of your concrete links?
It's not, I don't think, questionable. It's pretty obvious what it is, and we'll see from the video that the performance art is kind of a symbolic version of what the deeper stuff is. And this is what's been going on in the elite circles for a long time, where they put on these art forms, quote unquote, that are out there that are in the public, Piss Christ and all this stuff, which is supposed to be Damien Hirst type stuff, which is supposed to be public versions of this to create aesthetic terror, and then I would presume that the real stuff really does go on in private. So as you can see, she talks about in this, that she calls it recipes, the spirit cooking, and she talks about the formulas for breakfast and lunch and dinner, and various crystals, various times that you're supposed to do this. She's got her little bad artwork drawing here. She can't really do art, by the way. Here you see that you're supposed to mix fresh breast milk with fresh sperm milk, and you drink it on an earthquake night. What if, so if we watch The Core, do we drink it that night?
Yeah.
Or does she mean a literal earthquake?
It's the movie 2012. You're supposed to drink it and watch that.
Okay. Let's see. Her scribbles, sigils, maybe. Who knows?
Those are
pubic.
boobs.
No, I think they're pubic hairs.
Are
or are they
sure?
breasts?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they're
Different
breasts.
boobs.
Look in the mirror for as long as is necessary for your face to disappear. Don't eat the light. This is gobbledygook tied in with. Here she says, with a sharp knife cut deeply into your middle finger on your left hand. Eat the pain.
Yeah, that's obviously writings that she included as part of her art installation. Do you comprehend that she is a performance artist who likes to shock people? She is a performance artist.
Well, this comes straight from Satanism, and what they do in a lot of times is drink adrenalized blood because it has the same effect as a steroid.
Interesting.
What? Oh, so just outright make shit up and flat out lie. I see. So this is complete fiction on your part to attack and disparage Satanists? No evidence, no proof, or even a link, just pure nonsense.
And you'll notice that, it's pretty clearly intended to be satanic. It's intended to be dark. I mean, I understand it's supposed to be shocking and all that.
Anything and everything to you is satanic? Well, that should make your arguments pretty easy. Look, a butcher shop. Must be satanic. Hey, look, chickens hanging in the window of a Chinese market. Must be satanic. I guess soup bones are satanic too.
There's another one I found. You can see here at the Guggenheim where she's right beneath the inverted pentagram. So that is explicitly satanic. There's no question there.
So any 5-pointed star or pentagram shown that the point facing down is unquestionably satanic? No room for interpretation or context. It's just automatically satanic. Well, everything is satanic according to your backwards superstitious logic.
So we've got this witch here who is some kind of front witch person in the Hollywood scene, and this is supposed to be edgy.
Marina does not identify as a witch nor a Satanist. She was raised in the Orthodox Church, but she defines herself as spiritual and not religious. A quick Google search will reveal this. When asked if she, Marina, considers herself religious, she responds, "No, I don't like religions at all. I want to divide religion and spirituality. Religion I don't like. Spirituality, yes."
With her witch wand and so forth.
Her witch wand? How is that a wand? Looks like a piece of thin wood. Oh, I see. When you said concrete links, what you actually meant was false claims based off your own creative imagination? Gotcha.
This gala brings up so many things that I wanted to bring up in this book that I go to a lot called Cannibalism, Blood Drinking, and High Adept Satanism. And this is from a guy who was raised in the Illuminati, and he was a victim of satanic ritual abuse, and he was a boy who was made to live as a girl at times, and he was in child pornography and supposed to be raised into the high ranks, but he became a Christian, got out of it.
She rattles on about some book written by some nut claims to have been raised by guess who? Yep, you got it, the Illuminati. Why? Because why not? Sure, let's throw the Illuminati into this.
And so this book has a lot of interesting things in it. One was talking about blood drinking, and I wanted to read this passage for you real fast. And it says, "The psychology of blood drinking is the psychology of powerlessness." It says, "People who have been made to feel powerless in their lives may feel compelled to drink blood as a way of attempting to regain a feeling of power. Secret studies made by psychologists and social scientists working for the Illuminati have shown this."
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Secret studies made by psychologists and social scientists working for the Illuminati have shown this.
I was not aware that the Illuminati had psychologists and social scientists who were conducting secret studies. Can I find any of these studies in any peer-reviewed articles anywhere?
Those persons who feel compelled to drink blood have been abused physically, sexually, or emotionally.
Yeah.
They have been made in some way to feel profoundly helpless or victimized. Sometimes they are persons of wealth and privilege who have been made to feel they must live a certain aristocratic lifestyle into which they have been born. Although such aristocrats have many advantages, one of them isn't freedom of lifestyle choice, so they too seek to compensate for a lack of authentic personal power by having the experience of feeling powerful through drinking blood.
Wow, those Illuminati psychologists really did quite an extensive secret study. For an imaginary group, that's really impressive. Is this part of your proof in concrete links? Fake studies from a crappy book about a long defunct secret society from the 1780s?
The author of the book that I was referencing before, he was the child prostitute who was made to entrap politicians and certain people. Mm-hmm. And then he goes on to say that in the really, really high up in the darker Luciferian circles, they will serve you human meat at the party and then film it, and then once you've eaten it, then they reveal to you what you've eaten, and they have you on film, and if you don't go along with it, then they can blackmail you with that.
The author, who is also an Illuminati child prostitute, was entrapping high-level politicians? You wouldn't happen to have any names of those high-profile politicians, would you? Of course not. Why am I even asking? The Illuminati is so good at covering its tracks. Well, except for the psychology studies you cited before. If this actually happened, no politician ever called their bluff or realized that a court of law would find them innocent of eating human flesh if they were unaware of what they were eating. No, it's just an automatic silence without hesitation or question.
They kill goats quite often, They'll torture a goat for its adrenalized blood and drink that blood, if not a human person.
Human, yeah. Now, all this cannibalism might sound far-fetched, but what we're going to see is that's, come on, this is like ancient pagan practice, so I don't think that it's too far afield from what these people are probably doing.
This is a joke, right? Probably doing? You guess that Marina Abramovich and Hollywood stars are drinking goat's blood, human blood, and eating the flesh of human beings. That's what they are probably doing, in your opinion? And you are so confident in this that you are willing to publicly announce this on YouTube to 11,000 viewers. Tell me, of all the thousands of people who may view your video, how many of them believe this and possibly will take action to combat such claimed horrific behavior? Drinking human or animal blood is unhealthy, and in the case of human blood, it's poisonous. Not to mention, cannibals can develop Kuru, a serious debilitating disease.
And next, we're going to look at some more evidence of this. In fact, some of the Hollywood tie-ins with predictive programming.
Predictive programming? You can't possibly be serious with all of this nonsense, could you? I mean, I don't see any indication or audible cues that you are joking, but really, you believe this?
Well, just look at how they classified the code words for the child prostitution and the other things that they want. They're all food items, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, well, and some people speculate that it's not just prostitution, but it's also cannibalism.
Right.
Those supposed code words were made up by some random 4chan poster. Most likely a troll who wanted to stir up some controversy, and tinfoil hat conspiracy nuts such as yourself took this single post that has been spread around and did absolutely no research, unverified, no critical analysis, and you believed it. Then turned around and spread it as fact with no disclaimer. You seem to be so intelligent and articulate, and yet you are so gullible and naive. I don't know if I should be upset with you or feel sorry for you, but this nonsense you're spreading is very dangerous, and you have to realize that.
Well, I don't call them baby eaters for nothing, and I have been doing that since the beginning, whether it's them actually eating babies or taking their essence by raping them or whatever. But if you know the mindset of a Satanist, this isn't so far-fetched, because what they think is that we are all animals and that they are the top of the food chain, and it's normal to prey on lesser beings, and they don't see people as equal. They see them at the top and everyone else as cattle.
All this nonsense distilled into one video is making my brain hurt. How can you get so much wrong and make so many bullshit claims? Let me break this down. Satanists do not think of themselves as the top of the food chain. Yes, we are intelligent animals. How can you make such an accusation that Satanists eat babies or somehow feed off their essence by raping them? What is this based off? I mean, where, who, how? The fact that you would even conceive of such a thing is more disturbing. And apparently J. Dyer is fine with condoning your accusations because he's not speaking up and correcting you.
Well, another thing that you put in your article that I thought was really fascinating was the invention of the television itself was an occult undertaking by a man named William Crooks, who was a member of the Golden Dawn, who was attempting to make contact with spirits on the other side. And this is where the technology came from to make the Crookes tube, or the cathode ray tube, that the original televisions had.
Yeah.
And the first thing they broadcast was a Maltese cross.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm impressed. You actually got one right. Well, sort of. Yes, he was initiated into the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn in 1890, and he was a member of the Psychic Research Institute, and he was interested in Spiritism. However, the Crookes Radometer was not created to contact spirit. It did, however, lead to the discovery of X-rays. It also led to the discovery of properties of cathode rays, culminating in J.J. Thomson's 1897 identification of cathode rays as negatively charged particles, which were later named electrons. Crookes tubes are now used only for demonstrating cathode rays. William Crookes also invented glasses that were 100% ultraviolet ray blocking. Next time you put on your UV blocking sunglasses, you can thank an occultist. Or maybe he used those to see demonic forces.
What's your problem? I said, what's your problem?
Many scientists have studied the occult, such minds as Sir Isaac Newton and Jack Parsons, to name a few, which makes sense, as the occult sciences is what evolved into the sciences of chemistry and even astrophysics. Funny that baby eating never made the history books. I guess because that is 100% bullshit.
And then you have Mark David Chapman, who was friends with Kenneth Anger.
Yes.
So you have all these ties to actual real-life Satanists in this movie.
Kenneth Anger's not a Satanist. He does identify as a pagan, but not as a Satanist. This is really easy information to gather. You don't need access to records of magical orders or insider information. It is easily Googled or accessible through your local library.
There are rumors that Anton LaVey played the role of the devil and also served as a technical advisor of the film, but you can't really prove that.
I've read that that's true. I'm not. I mean, we could probably dig up IMDb, but in my notes, I had it's true from the books that I've read on this. But that was a while back.
From the IMDb trivia page linked below, there is a popular rumor that Church of Satan founder Anton LaVey gave technical advice and portrayed Satan in the impregnation scene. This is false. LaVey had no involvement with this film. There is a conflicting report on the Church of Satan's own website that reads, when Rosemary's Baby was about to be released in 1968, LaVey, besides playing the part of the devil, attended advanced screenings set up by the studio's publicity department to elicit his observations as various religious groups previewed the film. In the full cast and crews listed in IMDb, Anton LaVey is not listed anywhere, let alone as technical director or as the devil.
Well,
now, go ahead.
Susan Atkins, the member of the Manson family who murdered Sharon Tate, she was a follower of Anton LaVey.
No, she wasn't. She says she was offered to dance at a staged witches' sabbat at a club, but nothing about membership in the Church of Satan. You most likely twisted this bit of truth in hopes of creating some bias and guilt by association. It wouldn't matter if she was a member. She described herself as an associate of Anton LaVey, as a former associate of Anton LaVey's who danced for him and spent personal time with him before joining the Manson family. She also claims that he actually worshipped Satan and that she was uniquely privy to this, despite numerous claims to the contrary, including the books written by Anton LaVey himself.
Yes, it's also interesting, too, at the same time, that Sharon Tate, Polanski's wife, right prior to the Manson murders in 1966, she was filming Polanski's movie Fearless Vampire Killers, which in that movie there's references to these elite, occult, royal-ish vampires that worship Lucifer.
Right.
Remember that movie?
Yeah, and then there's a scene at a New Year's Eve party where they're celebrating 1966, even though the movie was made in 1968, which they call Year One, which is actually exactly what Anton LaVey called that year. And then if you look on the calendar, the baby is born on June 6, 1966, which makes 666, right?
You do realize this is a film and not real life, right? I'm not sure if you understand where reality ends and fiction begins. You continually conflate the two.
Right. Now, some authors will allege that both Marianne Faithfull, who was the one-time partner of Mick Jagger, was initiated into witchcraft, as well as Sharon Tate being initiated into witchcraft in the Alex Sanders tradition, which is the Gerald Gardner branch. Gardner, of course, studying under Crowley.
Even if Sharon Tate and Marianne Faithfull were initiated into an Alexandrian coven, which I really doubt, but so what? Thousands of people get initiated into random covens all the time. Few actually stay and pursue their studies any further, especially during the 60s when Alex Sanders personally initiated so many people. Gerald Gardner met Crowley towards the end of Crowley's life. They met 4 times in May of 1947, which was the year of Crowley's death. Crowley died on December the 1st, 1947. Gerald Gardner was elevated to the Minerva grade into the English OTO and given a charter by Crowley, which Gardner did absolutely nothing with to further the OTO. Crowley expressed no interest in Gardner's witchcraft. He recorded nothing in his diaries about witchcraft, and Gardner used some of Crowley's liturgy in his rituals to quote-unquote fill them out, much of which was later replaced by liturgy written by Doreen Valiente.
Now, is some of this hype and theatrics? Yes, but see, a lot of people who make the argument, like we saw in regard to Marina Abramovich, they'll say, oh, this is just art. It's not real. People don't take it. But see, if you are into the occult or esoteric stuff, those people take it seriously because they see the art as ritual. And this is what the arts and theater have always been seen as in the pagan tradition.
The occult has influenced artists, and art has played a vital part in occult ritual. Always has. I guess when Da Vinci or Michelangelo or other artists portray Christian art, this is okay. It's only bad when people use occult symbolism. So not only are you a paranoid, delusional, tinfoil hat-wearing idiot, but you're also a bigoted hypocrite.
Angela Lansbury and Frank Sinatra. Now, Murder, She Wrote takes on a whole new light when you understand that Angela Lansbury has for a long time known about MK Ultra. MK
Ultra was a failure. You are an idiot.
And I think it's all big, huge psychological warfare, but it also has this occultic element to it that's very real.
You keep throwing this word around, occult. And what the hell do you think the occult is? What is your definition? You seem to use it as some patchword to connect whatever nonsense you want to connect. You never source it. You don't give reference or cite what and how something is occult. Well, I'm calling you out, tinfoil hat boy. Put up or shut up. Define the occult and make these connections.
Yeah, and because God is real. And, the biblical description of all this, which long ago described those in earthly power, eating their children and sacrificing them to demons, which is described in Exodus and in Deuteronomy and the texts of the Bible. That is the world that we live in. And of course, people have cognitive dissonance. They can't admit any of this stuff is actually going on, because it would reshape their worldview, and they would have to admit the existence of evil, and to admit the existence of evil would also presuppose that there's good upon which the evil is parasitically feeding to sustain its negative existence.
And now we come to the crux of the entire point of this video. The reason he lies about Marina Abramovich and others drinking blood and eating human flesh. The reason he lies about Hollywood elites. This whole nonsense about satanic cults and the Illuminati, all perpetrated to support the concept of evil, so that by proving evil exists, therefore God, lives ruined, careers interrupted, and people's motives questioned, all so this despicable man can claim his God is real because evil. Anyways, please, please don't let people get away with this. It has real world consequences. This nonsense has to end. Thank you all for watching. Please help me fight stupid and support me by sharing this video on your social media. Support me on Patreon, or you can support me via PayPal. The links are below. Stay safe, stay skeptical, and until next time, I'll see you in hell, you heathens.